Hi there. Welcome to another presentation of the Sound Healing Conference. Now we have Helane Anderson. Hi, Helane.
Hi, David. How are you?
Good, good. Helane is a transformational voice coach, singer, pianist, sound healer, harpist, musician, composer, craniosacral therapist, author, multi-instrumentalist, teacher, and founder of Sacral Sounds. Her unique style of working with sound blends her years of studying healing modalities with a background in contemporary classical music and sound. LA Yoga Magazine states Helane Marie Anderson sings like an angel, taking you into the celestial world with her voice paired with crystal singing bowls, chimes, and alchemical bowls. Based on her unique journey through a performing arts career that eventually led her down the healing path, Helane's book and transformational voice program, You Are Meant to Sing 10 Steps to Unlock Your Inner Voice, combines her training and background into focused work with the voice. The intention behind her programs and workshops is to create a space that allows people to step into their power and purpose while connecting deeply with the voice and sound through speaking, singing, and action. One client wrote, "Incredible. Helane shares her knowledge in a way that is easily understood and creates a container that makes you feel comfortable and held." She has produced 3 professional sound healing recordings: Elemental Alchemy, Painted Sound, A Journey Through the Seven Chakras, and Songs from the Goddess that help to balance the body, mind, and spirit. Stay tuned for her upcoming mantra album release.
Yeah, thanks, David.
Yeah, cool. What have you been up to lately?
Recently, actually, I've sort of been working on my album, probably is my most important thing. And it's interesting because my first 3 albums that I produced, I did them in a more improvisatory way. So I just went into the studio, recorded 2 different versions, picked the one I liked, and then it was the engineer's job to make it sound good after that point. And I worked with really excellent engineers that were able to kind of set it up so it was recorded well. So my job was kind of to, more promote it and keep doing my thing. And this time around, I've delved into learning all the technology. And so finally, like I learned Ableton Live, I've learned how to do live looping, I've learned the technology, I've learned diaphragmatic microphones, I've learned how to record the bulk of it myself. And I'm working with a producer as well who's helping me with the mixing and like various tidbits. But it's been a crash course in learning and also understanding that when you're doing something that's more of a build of song structure and mantra-based stuff, it's just much more labor intensive and in a very loving way. And you can be so much more particular because you have so many ways that the mixes can go. And there are 9 tracks on the album that sort of span my own journey over the last probably 5 years or so. And all mantras, some in English, one in Latin, and 3 in Sanskrit. So it's been like a really interesting journey of working with mantras in this way that kind of makes it sort of folk singer songwriter slash classical. And I'm playing most of the instruments on the tracks. I have a few musician friends that are contributing pieces here and there. But it's been super fun. I've been really enjoying the learning process and delving into that deeply, which is also, I feel like, made me a better musician. And it's what I always tell people, and kind of the sort of the focus of our talk today is delving into the fact that it's really never too late to keep learning. Like, right? I always say, if you stop learning, you might as well not be here anymore. It's really like you can continue to grow in your musical offerings. You can continue to grow in what you can offer in the sound world. And yeah, I can tell you a little bit more about that journey too.
Yeah, I found it's really nice when you uh, are able to help produce it yourself and do all the
Mhm.
parts yourself because it's a little more coherent. And as opposed to, I mean, if you get a nice flavor when you get different musicians, but when you can actually mold it just the way you envision it, then it often comes out even cooler.
Yeah, I'm super excited because it feels like very near and dear to my heart, and the bulk of the melodies and songs, the way they evolved was also my journey during lockdown and what happened. And the biggest thing that happened to me, aside from learning technology, which is still, it was only a year ago or that I did live looping in live for the first time. And now I do it all the time. So it's like putting myself out there that way. But also, in May of 2020, I very, I don't know how to put the word there. I tried to learn the guitar for like the multiple time in this lifetime, and it's just not my instrument. It's just like something in me, you know, I'm a classical pianist, I was a singer. I can play a lot of the sound healing instruments, but when it came to the guitar, there's just something and it never felt quite right for my body. And my friend, I have to kind of credit her for this. She's like, "Why don't you just get a harp?" And I was like, "Huh. Okay, well, what else am I going to do? I'm sitting at home like by myself." So I went to a harp store in LA that unfortunately has closed since, but I bought this small Salvi Juno harp because I'm also particular. I didn't want to get a cheap one off of Amazon. I'm a classical musician. I wanted one that was going to sound really good. And I just started learning the harp. And now it's just like exploded where I'm like, "Oh, why wasn't I playing this instrument the whole time?" And it's been such a beautiful journey, and also just doing so many sound healings, and I do a lot of sound therapy and rehab clinics in the Los Angeles area, just to have an instrument that was more melodic to go along with some of the other instruments. You can't really travel with a piano. And you know, I mean, you could take a keyboard, but it's kind of labor intensive and you have to set it up. And so this smaller harp just brought this element where I could sing more mantras and or I could sing songs as part of the sound healing and bring in this other melodic element that felt very angelic. And it was interesting being a trained classical musician and picking up a new instrument later in life, what that has done for my brain. And also for like just, you know, where your musical ability is way beyond your technical ability, especially when you first start. And how much that has helped me become more creative, actually, by picking up a new instrument later in life. Because at that point, I can sit with this instrument and I don't have the same baggage with the piano, you know, where I was like in my classical lessons and the perfectionism and that. And it's like, okay, I'm picking it up later in life. So I still don't feel technically caught up on the harp to what I can do on the piano, but I can do so much already. And it gives me freedom. So there's this freedom in playing a new instrument or a freedom. And I think it can be felt whatever the instrument. And that's sort of my bigger point of creativity. It's never too late to like enter the beginner's mind.
Nice. Nice. Okay, so we got the big question, and that is, what would you do if you had all the money in the world to help people?
If I had all the money in the world to help people, I think one of the most pressing issues that I notice every day living in Los Angeles, but that I feel kind of not sure if it's been my path to like help fix it, because you know sometimes it's about choosing what you're supposed to be doing in the world, and I feel like music is my bigger offering. But I think if I had all the money in the world, I would try and find a way to solve homelessness. And that's one that I feel very directly affected by quite frequently. And I do feel I have a friend who used to be a violinist in the LA Philharmonic when I worked there many years ago. And he started a nonprofit called Street Symphony. And they actually take music, not sound healing so much, but more music, into prisons, into the homeless community. And there's been a really great response. And they also feed people and they do that. So they have that connection that comes through the music of reaching people, because a lot of the people that are in that situation also have mental illness, and music is really helpful for a lot of these populations. So so I think that would be the first thing I would do. And then I would try to support everyone who's creating healing music or things that could, to be able to spread the music and not really worry, like, like what is going to be creating like the biggest amount of change. And it can look so many different ways for so many different people and so many populations. And I find myself like when my music comes out, it's more of a fusion. It's like sound healing elements, but also comes in from my classical background, also comes from like the songwriter stuff that's there. And there's this sort of fusion where music in itself is healing and being able to create that space of that commodity that's accessible to everyone.
Nice. Excellent. So tell us about what you're going to talk about today.
So today I wanted to talk and give some tools about creativity, just some very simple exercises. And what does that really mean? And one of the things I can say in my own process, because I did the program with you now more than 10 years ago, I guess, at the Sound at the Globe Institute, which was awesome. It sort of sent me on this whole other trajectory of what I'm doing now. And I think sometimes for me, I had so much process I had to go through, healing my own traumas, healing things that I went through and that I feel like what I missed in a lot of that was the fun, like where I can have fun, like, and be creative and be expressive and be able to really be in that peaceful space with myself, which is much more where I am now. And so the idea of creating, I think a lot of people immediately think, oh, I have to be creative, which means I have to be really good at it right now. And I think that actually stops a lot of people in their tracks from being creative at all, because they think they need to be good at it in order to do it. And I think that the bottom line is that it's beginner's mind, like meditation. And I have a lot of people that'll come, like when I work with people in the clinic, sometimes I teach meditation or guided meditation, and sometimes I'm doing a sound bath. But when I teach the guided meditation, a lot of people say, well, I'm so bad at meditation because I have all these thoughts. But, you and a lot of people who've been through that before know that, well, that's the point. You sit with the thoughts. And it's not about being good or bad. It's like you kind of watch your judgments of the self. And it's the same when you're working with music or an instrument or something. There's so much self-judgment that comes up to the space. And if you look into indigenous cultures, they just don't have that same level of self-judgment when it comes to creative expression. It's just like the whole village sings. And you might have the people that sing better than the other person, or they like to hear, or that's their gift, but it doesn't prohibit people from the expression of the singing or the art or whatever it happens to be for the medium for each person. So I have with myself found that once I stepped into that space of being creative, of allowing myself to improvise instead of feeling stuck as a classical musician that I needed to play what was on the page, then everything else in my life opened up. So it's more about the tool. And to be clear, it's about bringing chaos into form. Because all creativity is you're bringing from the ether, from wherever else, you're bringing this into form, whether it be music or art or cleaning or organizing or something, like all of that is creative. But when you're specifically dealing with music and sound, which is what I'll give a couple tools today of what you can do, it's this idea, just start really simple. Start with one note. Start with a simple rhythm. And then kind of just see what happens. And maybe nothing happens for a while. But I spent an entire year improvising at the piano every day, just whatever came out. And I probably would say at least the first 7 months, all I heard was my self-judgment. Oh, sounds terrible. Like, what am I doing? Like, da, da, da. And I was like, no, I still need to do it. I still need to do it. Until all of a sudden, it started to become a song. And then I recorded the song. And even with the song, sometimes it would get a little bit, I get very much in the judgment mind. But what starts to happen is the more you do it, the more those voices quiet down. And then you are able to kind of move through it and just allow the energy to move. So for myself, just being creative has enabled me to become more centered within myself, which is healing in itself, but also gave me the space to actually allow a song to come forth, to start simple. And a lot of the songs on this album that I'm working on are very much about taking people on a journey through evolution into positive thoughts, positive thinking, like how you can drop into the state of peace through music. And I realized, like, any moment when I was recording something and I didn't feel it myself, those tracks get deleted. And so it's like that interesting process of really being specific with the tools and being, because I definitely will say, as a beginner on the harp, I wanted to skip ahead to where my brain was musically instead of honoring that I'm still new at the instrument. So in the beginning, I was really impatient. I was like, oh my God, my fingers can't quite do this thing yet. I'm not quite there yet. And now I'd say I'm still like, maybe like medium, for where I want to be, but I still like have a whole other layer of virtuosity that I want. But relative to the instrument, 3.5 years is not a long time to play that instrument. So it's kind of this interesting thing where the last piece of that I want to share is that sometimes I have people that'll work with me and they think that, when I do my 6-week program, which is really about kind of getting to the heart of any blockages in the voice to get the voice to open up, that they think, oh, I'm going to sing amazing in 6 weeks. And I have to remind people that it takes time, and most professional singers still take voice lessons, and I took voice lessons every week for 10 years of my life. So it's important to kind of balance being free and being disciplined. And I feel like that's kind of the key to creativity. It's not extreme one or the other. It's somewhere in the middle. It's like being able to like be disciplined, and you could maybe be disciplined for 5 or 10 minutes and then allow yourself to be free, and then be disciplined and then be free. And then eventually they kind of blend together and you don't have to be quite so edgy about it. But I noticed, like, okay, if I want to go to the next level of anything, there's what I would say in like studying piano, like I would have this moment where I felt like I was on a plateau. And then all of a sudden I'd have this thing where it would go up, but it's after like the daily practice. And I think it's the same in meditation. It's the same with sound. It's the same of just sitting with the inner being and being very clear where you are with yourself and allowing that space of being with the instrument, of being with your voice, of being with the singing bowl, of being with the flute, of being with the harp or the gong or whatever instrument you have with you. It doesn't require virtuosity in music. It just requires presence as a human.
Mm-hmm. Right. Right. Excellent. I love this. We're working with the kids and teaching creativity, so I'm really excited to get into this with you.
Yeah. So like one of the first things I really like to do, and I'm gonna turn up this one mic, it might make it echo for a second, but I'll turn it off in a minute, is this is a palm chapaca. So it's like a type of rattle. I know you know what it is, but for anyone there that doesn't know, it's a chapaca, which they have these trees in the Amazon where they make these as like rattles from the trees, but this is made with palm leaves. And you can use it just like a gentle percussion instrument. And one of the things I really like to do, and I'm going to just turn this microphone up a little bit, is just start to do this really simple, where I'm just doing one beat. And then I'm just going to do a do, just gentle in one note. Oh, just do, 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 do. And you can just start like that, as if you would with a mantra where you're kind of, one of the things you can also do is that I like to do, and I do this when I do my sound sessions or work with people privately, is that just set an intention. Like for myself, I'm just going to set an intention today of being super present, and that's it. So I'm just going to be present, and I'm going to do again. But then if I move it forward, I'm just going to see what happens. I'm going to see, like, do I feel called to move to another vowel? Do I feel called to move to something else? And I'll just see what that means, like when I'm being present with what I feel inspired to do. And so I'll go back. Do, 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 do. Do, 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 do. Do, 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 do. Do, do, do. Do, do, do. And the reason I like working with a shaker is that you get this sort of baseline rhythm. And I feel like rhythm sometimes makes it easier. Like, I mean, a lot of us as sound healers will do more ambient improvisation, which is great, but it almost is harder to maintain that ambiance. But I will show you what we can do with the singing bowl in a minute too. But this idea of just being really simple, and then you can even like say, okay, well, what if that is a melody and it becomes a song? And it's like, I don't know. It would be really simple because I said present. So I am here. I am here. Being present. Being present. Here with you. Here with you. I don't know. I just made that up because I was like, oh, that's what I feel like doing. And you know, maybe because I make stuff up all the time, it's not as hard for me to do that. If it doesn't come so quickly to you, it doesn't mean it can't come. It could be just one word.
It's interesting because, the rhythms, of course, based on journey work, can
Yeah.
totally take you into the theta state and really where all types of things happens, where you start seeing, other beings and and animals and guides and stuff. So the rhythm can be really cool. But it's interesting. The rhythm you were just doing is yours. It's
Yeah.
your metabolism. Because I could see that you were doing it in your rate of your metabolism.
That's
That's
probably
really,
correct. Yeah.
yeah, it's really cool because then it makes you more comfortable and then you can go deeper into the zone and get more creative.
Yeah, and that's also the place where if you really like what you're saying, it's like I think it's more ingrained now, but I have to be really honest that rhythm was not the thing that came the easiest to me, even though I dance. Like it was something that I had to practice. So what I always tell people, like you can get a metronome, and like I always tell people that I teach or that I work with, it's like practice with a metronome. If your rhythm is not awesome, like put it on something slow or practice with a watch or practice with something. And just even when they're playing the singing bowl, like just to tap it with the rhythm, and how that actually, that what you're talking about, the entrainment to the heartbeat, the entrainment to like, then people in that steady rhythm, there's something about the nervous system that does slow down and create that level of comfort.
I love it. Just for people to know that it's okay just to do just nothing fancy, just a straight rhythm.
Absolutely.
Da 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 da. Nothing fancy. That's that right there does miracles. Even in a
I
session as well, when you're working on someone.
I wholeheartedly agree. Like, I think especially if you're newer, don't even think about getting fancy. Like, don't try to get fancy. Just be present. Like, honestly, just that super simple thing. Like you just said, you can go in a sound session and keep that. And so why do people do trance dance? Because it's a steady rhythm. So why do they get in the trance? Because the rhythm and the pulse is steady. It's not all over the place. It's very much like stepping into this different realm of being. And so that's one of the exercises I do.
What else?
Okay, well, I will do this. So I'm gonna play, and I'm gonna do this a little different. I'm gonna play. I have actually my singing bowls recorded in a mini programmer like that I recorded myself because it sounds a little better online to do it that way. So I'm just gonna play a C singing bowl at 432, and I'm gonna do the same thing, except I'm not gonna be so concerned with rhythm this time. This time I'm just gonna be in the ambiance space. So I'm gonna show you how you can kind of do both. So in this case, also really simple. I would just play the singing bowl, which like I think most of you are familiar with the singing bowls if you're here at the Sound Healing Conference. So I'm just gonna play this recording and let you kind of hear how I would do this a little bit differently. And I am going to hold the same intention of presence. So then you can do something really interesting. So that was, I was taking the same intention and just playing around with what my voice wanted to do. But again, it doesn't have to be complicated. And I highly recommend you like stepping into the space of being as simple as possible first. Like we keep coming back around to that. Like don't try to make it so complicated from the get-go. You can get more complicated as you move along, but honestly, I found that with picking up the harp, which I'll show you something on the harp shortly, but that it's actually slowed me down. And I'm finding myself going back to some of these super basic things just to align myself, to align my body. It's like, I mean, I can do complicated things, but I was realizing that sometimes I just need to come back to the basics. I need to come back to, if you're a pianist, practicing scales. If you're on the harp, practicing scales with the voice. And it doesn't necessarily have to be that, but it can be just as simple as an ohm or a humming or very easy things.
Just one note, even.
Yeah.
Or maybe just two notes. Oh.
Yeah. I mean, you could just do one note the whole time. I mean, and often I recommend people practice that where they're just humming on a monotone without an instrument, just And just what does your voice sound like without the help of an instrument too?
Uh,
It can be so simple.
it makes me think, and maybe you're going to talk about this, but um, there's always the thing where people think they have to be on pitch. And it's nice if you're in pitch, but
Yeah,
really what I tell people is start by having no rules at all, because it's all about freeing the flow.
for
So
sure.
I always say it's a strict rule. You can never, ever do it wrong or out of pitch or anything. It's always perfect. And
Yeah,
because once you get that flow going where you're not worried about anything, right?
yeah.
Then you could start reeling it in where you start looking at pitch. But the truth is, the more you're in the zone, the more the pitch is going to resolve itself anyway.
I wholeheartedly agree. I mean, it was interesting because, I started singing more again after your program, and it was kind of like, why hadn't I been singing? Why am I not singing? Like, what's happening with my life? Like, right? Like, and going backwards in time of thinking, okay, but then there's a refinement, but there's also, for me, the freedom to open up the voice was so crucial. And it was the irony is that once I gave myself freedom to sing wrong notes, you are absolutely correct. I went back and sang the other classical repertoire worlds better than I had before. And that's the irony. People don't get that that is the case. And even I still teach a class at USC in arts leadership. I actually had a class this morning, and I instruct the students on how to really delve into their own gifts as a leader or what they would like to do. But a lot of them are doctoral music students who've never improvised before, ever. And I really feel like that was the biggest detriment to my musical training. And I definitely feel like I would have been doing a lot of the stuff a lot earlier had somebody been like, you need to be improvising. Like, that's the skill to develop, and like push me in that direction instead of feeling this kind of, oh, I'm not good at that, or I'm not pigeonholed, or I'm not, like, my own self bias of my limits. And the truth is there aren't limits, but you have to start in that place, what you're saying, of freedom first.
Nice, nice. It's so funny because I am still scared to sing a real song, but I have
So
no
why don't you
trouble.
sing one for us
Well,
today?
I
Let's
could do, I can do any sound.
Yeah.
All right. But if I have to sing real notes, it's like then that fear sometimes kicks in. Although I have to tell you, the one thing that really helped is I was with this woman who sang all the time. I mean, we'd be in the car, and she's always singing with anything that's going on, or if nothing was on the radio or player, she would be singing. And so I got where I was singing all the time. And all of a sudden, after about 6 months, I was like totally not afraid of singing at all, just by doing it all the time.
I mean, the biggest way through fear is literally through fear. It's like doing it anyway. Like, the definition of courage is not that you don't feel fear, it's that you do it regardless of the fear, regardless of the fear, right?
I, I love it.
Yeah, no, that's such a beautiful thing. And so I wanted to show you one thing on the harp when we talk about one note. What I'm just going to demonstrate to you is this is one of the things when I was getting better, which I still am getting better every day. But this idea of like one note at a time, because one of the things that you have to practice, and one of the things that was hardest for me on the harp was just where you hold your fingers and the technique of like plucking without making too much buzz or noise. That's a very tricky thing on the harp, and still is tricky for me. And it's tricky for most harpists. Like, you learn to master it over time. It's probably the hardest technical element of the harp beyond on moving really quickly. But because I'm a pianist, I can move my fingers quickly. But there's this exercise where, and you don't use your pinky finger on the harp at all, actually. Like the pinky finger is not used when you play the harp. So, and I, as a pianist, am used to using all my fingers. So it was an interesting adjustment. But what I noticed is how weak my fourth finger was. So my fourth finger was like super weak. And so what you have to do on the harp is you have to do these finger strengthening exercises. So when you're doing that, you basically like, okay, so this is a C below middle C on the harp if you're a musician. But this idea that you just play one note at a time.
A little low, if you can turn it up a little bit.
Oh yeah, sure. All right. So I'm going to show where it's this one note at a time. I do have an effect on. I can turn it off too. It's tuned to C major right now. So what I'm going to show you that I did. So right now, basically my harp is tuned the way all of the white keys on a piano would be. So if you were to go over to like David's piano that's in the background there, all the white keys are basically what the notes are of the harp right now. And this is all, so now what I'm going to do, I'm going to show you how I did these finger exercises. And then one of the fun things to do, and you can do this on a piano, is you play this C below middle C, which is this, and you just play the one note in the left hand, and then you can play any other note on the piano and see what happens. So I'm just going to demonstrate for you a little bit. So I'm going to turn my voice down so it's not echoey. So you can basically do that on just the one note on any instrument. You can do the same if you have like a handpan or if you have something else. You can just play one note in this very simple rhythm, the same kind of rhythm I did with the chapaka, the same kind of rhythm with the rattle, and then you just sort of let it come. And what happens is that, you know, people often ask me, well, how do you come up with the melodies or how do you write the songs? And I'm like, well, I get present, I like sit with the instrument, and then it just comes. Like I just start singing and then it comes. But I have to be present in order for it to emerge. And it doesn't emerge as a perfect song. It emerges as maybe like a clip of a melody. And then I remember it and I go back and then I think of the words. I had one of the tracks on my album, for example, I had the melody that came as an improvisation in a concert I did back in February at St. John's Cathedral. And it was the harp and voice. And I was like, this really wants to be a song, but I don't know what the words are. And it was 3 months before I realized that the words were the mantra from the Heart Sutra, Gate Gate. And I was like, oh, it fits perfectly with this melody. I did the same with the Gayatri mantra that I have that's coming out. And I wrote it at the piano. I did not know what the words were initially. It was just the melody, and it was this chord progression that I kept coming back to, and then it slowly became the piano part, and then it slowly became this melody, and then the words became clear in time. And so like the process of it very much is that chaos into form. So like what I recommend you start doing, this isn't about writing complex things as much as it's about just writing what's in your heart. And I had one client who came to me and her goal in working with me for 6 weeks is to be able to do a song for this baby shower for a really close friend of hers. And she came like one of her last sessions and she didn't have the song yet. And I was like, she's like, I just feel sad I haven't done that yet. I was like, so let's do it now. And it was like, what is in your heart? Like, let's sit in meditation. What is the word that's coming through? And you write down the words and you write down the thoughts, and then it starts to become a song. And you can use a little rhythm. You can do 2 notes for a song. I mean, we don't want it to sound like Jaws or John Williams that way, like with the 2 notes, that's a little ominous. We want it to sound more healing and pretty, maybe. But this idea that you can go from this very basic thing, and if you listen to recordings of monks chanting or that, it's usually very monochromatic. It's like they're singing 1 note a lot of the time. And so this idea that you're vibrationally tapping into that level of creativity. And then what I like to do if I chant a mantra, like let's just say, for example, like Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha, which is Ganesha's mantra for removing obstacles. And if I just start chanting in Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha, 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 Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha. And then I just play around, and then sometimes it'll be like, oh, that was a really good melody. I'm going to let it stick. Like, let me see if I can do that again. And one of the, because I have on the album, there are actually 2 versions of the Gayatri mantra that are both very different. And the first one is one that just came because I did a 40-day practice during Lent last year of just showing up live every morning, regardless of whether people were there with me or not. And I chanted it the 108 times a day for 40 days. And this melody, just by the end of it, it just came because I was singing it a little different every day. And then all of a sudden, one melody just like took. And so this is like the ultimate creative process through sound and music is literally showing up, keeping it simple until it feels this natural progression through the creative process.
There's a couple of things I found are really helpful that I go over in my books. And one is to do whatever you do to a breath.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so meditate on what the energy of what you want to do is, what the intention is, and then notice your breath. And then actually do the notes, each note with the breath, and stay in that breath the whole time. That's one thing that I do with all my music that's really makes it so I can stay in that energy of the intention more, but also smooth flow of building up and breaking down. When you do a smooth flow with the breath, the energy, that becomes the whole thing. And it's not really how good or any detail of that. It's like when you build up and then you break down really slowly, you're going to take people to a really peaceful place.
Right. And that's the whole point of having the intention behind it, right? I mean, like if you listen to heavy metal music, you clearly have some anger to work out of your system, right? Because it's like that music is very dysregulating. I found even when I was younger, I just didn't like it. But I knew people that resonated with it for a time, or even that because it like helped them deal with their anger in a different way, and that's fine. But I'm like, I am so clear now. And I stopped listening to music that had really negative messaging in it because I noticed even if I liked it, like liked the song or the melody or the beat, if the word messaging wasn't resonant with me, it's not where I wanted to be anymore. And I always like encourage people that are younger to pay attention to the lyrics they listen to, because I don't think I even realized for how many years how much I was affected by it. And so what you're saying, it's that idea that you're creating an experience, you're creating a space, you're creating a safe space for people to drop in and allow the nervous system to fully receive the vibrations of the music. So I everything I'm doing is incorporating an element of the sound healing into it. Like, and that's the premise.
I have another thought that's really, see what you think about this. You know, you've seen it where you go to a sound bath and certain ones, the whole room turns into white light and people are bawling on the floor and miracles happen. And it's like, holy moly, what happened? Right. And some people are channeling higher beings or just source, where they go into a trance and these higher energies come through. So I started thinking, okay, how can you do that? And the main thing is just to ask, because I've had so many people in the conferences that are just really doing a whole nother level of creativity where it's like, well, what is going on? What is going on? My heart's blown open. It's like, it's really incredible. And but Doreen Virtue says the angels are just bored to death, sitting there not being able to do anything until they get asked. And you say, can you help? And they're like, and they can help. So that's one thing, is to be able to just ask, and also go to a place of peace yourself more and more and more. And then other realms open up more.
For sure. And it's interesting you bring that up too, because I think I used to experience that more, and it's not about not asking, but I also have felt that since lockdown and this sort of coming out of the space where we're kind of out of it, but not quite, but kind of, and um, I have found for myself anyway that a lot of the creativity has been to stay in my body more instead of feeling like I'm leaving my body in the realms, because I think like I just had a habit of wanting to leave my body often. And so I think for me personally, um I'm finding much more creativity being like fully present in my body and space now, and holding that space for others to feel free. And it's funny because sometimes people still will have those kind of experiences in the space that I'm holding because they're open to it, but I sort of come at it from the premise of the craniosacral therapy that I'm trained in, of allowing each individual to have what is in their highest and best experience rather than calling on specific things, because I don't know what that next person's like highest and best is necessarily, especially if it's a big group of people. And it's interesting because I've done this a number of times now, where I do these craniosacral sound baths where I'll do this like little bit of craniosacral therapy adjustment on each person, and then I do the sound bath after. But then in the beginning, I either play a sound bath that I've pre-recorded, or I will do some kind of thing that I will play one of my albums or something. So it feels very like aligned sonically with the people that are in the room, and it's more the vibration that I'm carrying or bringing in. And people have these really crazy healing experiences similar, but it's more about like something that opens from within themselves, and it's not as common, at least not in this last little while, that it's been something that's been more about the external forces that are also probably, I mean, they're always at play anyway. But it's been just an interesting evolution for my own work, because I definitely used to be much more in that space and now feel much more like, oh, I'm just going to be really present and allow that space to open from a different place and a different vantage point, which is interesting.
So tell us more.
All right. So one of the main things, like I said, in terms of being grounded in the body, like one of the other exercises I really like to do is incorporate movement. And I do dance. Like I've had a regular ecstatic five rhythms dance practice in the past, and one of the things I've noticed partially it's aging, partially, health challenges where I've been in a period where I've been feeling moving much slower than I ever have. And I was always moving 100 miles a minute. And now it's like this kind of slow down. And in that creative process, it can be a little frustrating when you're used to someone that creates things fast and you do create constantly creating, of taking time like I have with this album and with this project. And what I'm realizing is in this beauty of creating slowly instead of creating always so fast. And so with the movement, what I notice is that this is another tool of rhythm with the body. So if I did the same where I'm going to do just, I'll do, for example, Om Namah Shivaya to the Lord Shiva. And if I'm doing this in a practice, I might, it's like I don't have quite enough room. So I'll do this kind of seated down the way that I would do it. But this idea that like, okay, Om Namah Shivaya, and I'm just gonna work with the words and what my body wants to express right now. Like, where am I feeling that in my body? And right now, I'm just feeling this very interesting, rounded energy. Like, what am I feeling? Like, what is it that wants to move? And then Om Namah Shivaya, 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 Om Namah Shivaya. And then I'll kind of start moving. And one of the things that for me, like already, I just found that helpful, but I could even see myself in that one moment. I wanted to go out of my body and I pulled myself back and opened my eyes. So there's this moment where, like I said, it's all about tendency too, like, right? I mean, you might be a supremely grounded person. This isn't something for you, but I often would want to go out. And so like for me, my practice, and I have to say that the reason this happened is because I did four online intensive meditation retreats during the pandemic. And they were with Philip Moffitt, who's a really well-known meditation teacher. And he was teaching the 9 bodies meditation. And when we got to the point of the astral body, it was the first time I experienced in meditation being able to be in my physical body and the astral body at the same time, where I was still present in my physical body and I hadn't left. And it was revelatory to me. And I was like, okay, how can I create this in the sound so that people, because what I noticed even in my craniosacral clients, sometimes they'd have this deep healing, but if it wasn't grounded in their body, then it would kind of come back or they wouldn't kind of integrate it the same. So it was like kind of, it's not that I'm not open to that or that I'm not acknowledging that's happening. It's that I think it's more important that people are feeling like they get in that grounded space. And that's how I've done it for myself. So it was like really in the meditation practice of like a letting go of those sort of the elements and being really present with that moment in time, which I found very interesting to kind of explore. And that was just over maybe 2.5 years ago that I had that experience. And I had a massive, what you were describing, like huge heart opening. And I was sitting on the floor in my bedroom and it was like, what just happened in this meditation? And I was so intrigued by it and realized that I was like creating it from the inner world. And so coming at the creation from the inner world, where of course we're always bringing stuff from the ether into form, but like our specific conduits or a specific voice, like you have a very specific sound healing voice and like what you've created and all of your music and all of your healing, like you've created that. I mean, it's definitely from source, but it's also like your imprint that comes from source. So it's that kind of ability of taking that creativity and allowing that space through. And to just reiterate and be clear again, this does not matter if you are going to do it for a living, if you're not going to do it for a living. this is about like a daily practice or a practice in general through sound and music, and finding the thing that resonates with you. If it resonates with you to play a singing bowl and sing and start that way, if it resonates for you to find a rattle or a chapaka and that resonates with you, great. If you feel really called to learn the harp, you can start as a beginner on a much smaller harp and like be able to like, and I have multiple harps now, like, so I opened a portal of expense I wasn't expecting during the pandemic, but like this idea, you can start small. You can start in this place where you can just gradually have it as your meditation practice. And I know, especially for people who struggle with sitting meditation or don't feel that's right for them, as we know, sound is super helpful, like, right? I mean, sound is helpful for many people who struggle with that. But sometimes taking action with yourself or like creating a song with the rattle or with an instrument can be great for you, or having one simple pentatonic instrument like a free note xylophone or a Native American flute, or something that you can just be with yourself and be simple and just start from somewhere where you kind of watch. Because what I've noticed in challenging myself to pick up the extra instruments and stuff in the last few years, it's that I have to sit with the instrument and talk to the instrument. How do you want to be played? How do you want it? Like, so I say my instruments are people. Like they have stuff to say, right? It's not just me. I'm playing them, and they have their own intelligence in the material they were created in. And this idea that you can allow the creative space to open much more deeply just by integrating one of these things into your practice every day.
Any thoughts on being creative with another person?
For sure. I mean, one of the things that's been so beautiful about my project is like the producer that I'm working with, like he also has a classical music background, which is why we were a good fit, and he was a double bass player, and it's been kind of fun collaborating with him and like doing like the practices even within the context of the album, but also like with like even close friends or the group, the Sonic Devas that I perform with. I think there's another layer of beauty that gets created in collaboration. And if you have three people playing three different things, you can just sit in a circle. You can sit with just two people, and one person can have a rattle, and you can both just use your voices and see what happens in the space. And it's really fun to kind of do that. So I do that often with friends now. And we just performed at Bhakti Fest 2 weeks ago, and we were improvising on flute, and I did the harp, and then hammered dulcimer, and we just kind of started playing and like, okay, what's happening? And it became a rhythm, and then it became a melody. And so, and we're all trained musicians, so but you can do this so simply with just your voices, with just one note and the voices, and the sort of resonance that you get with other people is a really beautiful way to expand. And I definitely feel like my collaborative ventures like that have also made me a better musician, a better listener, a better, like, able to connect with people, with other people. And I find it to be a really helpful practice for relationships, for sure.
Cool, cool. You want to try it?
Sure, let's do it. What do you want to do?
Well, we can't do any rhythm because
Okay, yeah, 'cause
it's
of
still
the
delay on
feedback.
Zoom.
All right.
Yeah. So we'll just do sustained notes.
All right,
I'll
let's go.
let you start.
Okay. Ooh. I am. I It was an interesting composition. We got some like dissonant. We got some good binaural beats in there, But this is the thing that's fun, right? Like because you can create binaural beats with the voices. People like don't always realize that. If you sing, like if you don't have another person, like that was fun to kind of hold that note, right? Like you guys heard it, right? We got that binaural beat with the voices. But if you sing with the singing bowl like that, and you sing the pitch of the singing bowl and then you just move that little bit above or below, you will get the binaural beat just with your voice in the singing bowl. Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That was fun. I mean, I remember the first day of class, you came in, you're like, everyone has to sing how their day was, and we're like, or sing an introduction like to yourself without words or something like that.
Or who
That
you
was
are.
super fun. Yeah, who you are. That's a
Okay.
loaded thing in your
Okay,
voice.
let's see. Let's see. So do the sound of who you are.
Oh my gosh. Okay, let's see. Who am I? Hi, hi, ah, mm, hi, ah, do, 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 ma, ha,
Okay, you want to hear mine?
Yes, please.
Okay. Honey,
Awesome. That was fun. See, it's fun. And it's so funny. I went back in July. I went to Bobby McFerrin's Circle Song School. I didn't have any time, or I would have reached out. But because the workshop was super intensive, like 8 in the morning till 10 at night every day, and it was basically like 200 plus people that basically sing all the time. And I was like, my people. I'm like, so it was like it was super fun. But like, as you're saying that, they were singing, it was constant singing all the time. And it was just
oh,
such a beautiful environment.
it's so cool. You know, we have the kids doing that. I think all kids, because it's like the coolest creative process where you get, I mean, you can even have like, 5 or 6 and one gets a rhythm going or anything. And then someone adds another part and then someone adds another part and you go around and they start changing the parts. It's so cool because it's so creative and it creates that group synchrony. It's excellent.
Yeah, super fun. Like I'm
Yeah.
looking forward to integrating more of that. But it's so fun because you also it just up levels your ability as a looping artist too, because you're like looping with live people when you're doing circle singing, and then you're like, oh, okay, I get this, and the practices and the things and working with people, which is kind of awesome.
Anything else you'd like to share?
I just wanted to say, like, I really, really just encourage everyone to just have some type of creative practice. And this idea of working with sound and music is so healing. It doesn't matter where you are in life, how old you are, how good you think you are. Like, in fact, it has zero to do with any of those things. So I just like want to sit here and be like a silent or loud in this moment cheerleader to just say like, we're supposed to have fun. And I feel like so much of, there's been so much heaviness in the world, and I think and I struggle sometimes with finding the fun, like, and I just keep coming back around to how necessary it is for us to find joy in life, even with all the things that are challenging, and how joy is also our birthright, and joy is also important, and happiness is our birthright, and being able to step into the space. And I find for myself, like this music and sound exploration, when I'm feeling crappy, I just come over and I like play, and even if I don't feel like it initially, a good 10 minutes in, I feel better. And so I think sometimes it's like we have to kind of push ourselves through that inertia sometimes to be okay, this is the practice and I'm going to do it. And that's the discipline of like coming and doing it, whatever happens. But it can instantly shift your energy. It can instantly shift if you're not feeling great. It can instantly help you express those emotions. If you're feeling angry, then come and sing what the anger feels like, let it out of your system. And then you'll probably feel the release. And I think that's the biggest healing component that I want to just encourage people to just do it. Like, it's not about being perfect or doing the thing. If you don't have an instrument yet, just sing. Like, you don't need an instrument. And just like, find a way to make it as fun as you possibly can beyond just being in the shower.
Cool. Cool. Well, thank you. Thank you for all of your work and expertise and what you shared. It's really,
Oh,
really excellent.
well, thanks for having me. It's always amazing to reconnect, and I'm very grateful to be here. And I look forward to connecting with more people as we go along.